What's going on, y'all? You know, for years, for maybe going on decades now, Americans have been told that socialism is a fringe thing. They've been told that the Democrat Socialists are just a fringe group that's too extreme to be taken seriously and too small to really matter. But the ideas are spreading and spreading like wildfire. Their influence is growing. Their platform is readily available for everyone to see. They don't care. They want you to see it. And it's amazing to me that so many people are still just dismissing them. There's a famous saying, believe them when they tell you who they are. And with these Democrat socialists, dismiss them at your own risk.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to the Mission Ready Men Briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where faith in God is the standard and masculinity is not toxic. Today is Thursday, July 16th in the year of our Lord 2026. And we have a lot to get into. And we're going to get after it real quick. But first, be sure to hit like, subscribe, share. Help us to deal with the algorithm and the chokehold that they have us and a lot of conservative voices in. So every like, every click, every comment, every share, all of that matters a great deal, and we would appreciate all of it if you could help us out with that. Same for the Mission Ready Men Briefing YouTube channel, separate from the SHR network. It's the same show, just a different way to access. So if you could do us a favor and hit like and subscribe and share over there as well, we would absolutely love that. All right. We've been talking about the DSA. The Democratic Socialists of America. And we talked about them quite a bit last time. And we're probably going to be talking about them quite a bit until they're defeated, because they are antithetical to our way of life here, and their alliance with Islam, the Red-Green Alliance, is also not in line with, it goes diametrically opposed to our way of life here in the West. But the Democratic Socialists of America, they are trying their best. And this is something that the left does all the time with language. They are trying their best to disguise the language that they use, trying to disguise what they're really about. And for people who aren't paying attention, it all sounds great. It all sounds great. But one of the things that they're doing that we're going to talk about here a little bit today is They are building a security force called the Red Rabbits Security Commission. And while they're building that, they are simultaneously whining that the Second Amendment is a threat to us all. That's just that's just adorable. But the Red Rabbits, it sounds like a children's book. It sounds innocuous. It doesn't sound like there's anything to be concerned about. And they did that on purpose because there's reports of the names that they had been considering for this security force, and they all sounded too political or too militant. So they went with Red Rabbits. Now, there's not a lot of footage of their training and stuff like that. They're trying to keep a lot of that on the down low, but the documentation is out there. What they're planning is out there. What their goals are. All of that is out there if you're willing to look. The DSA is the single largest socialist / communist outfit in the country. They are openly pushing. Some people say it's communist adjacent. If you listen to people on CNN like Caitlin Collins, they'll say that it's not communism. It's not even socialism. But they're telling us exactly what it is. And this guy who is and I think I may have played this, played a more extended clip of this guy on the show before, but this is him in his own words.
I mean, our goal is liberation. Our goal is communism. I mean, our goal is liberation.
Our goal is communism. When people tell you who they are, believe them. And so to get back, excuse me, to the security aspect of this is not just your typical self-defense group that's the hobbyists or anything like that. This is their security force. This is along the same lines as Antifa and all these other leftist militant groups. Same type of training that they're all getting. They're getting trained in unarmed combat, armed and unarmed combat, their own firearm safety training, which is crazy considering how they think that the Second Amendment is a threat to us all. And we're going to get into some of their solutions to that later on. But they have first aid training. They have pepper spray training. And that was one of the things that I did when I was a police officer. I took, obviously, I was sprayed with pepper spray and stuff like that. And as a defensive tactics instructor, one of the things that I did was train people with pepper spray. It's no joke. This is what they're doing. These training tactics, they're mirroring Antifa and, like I said, other leftist groups. They're partnering with Marxist groups tied to China, other radical groups, because social welfare, I guess. These people are absolute lunatics. And their goal is to have 40% of every chapter ready for an uprising. They want 40% of their chapter to be involved in this Red Rabbit Security Commission. That's a lot. And the Bible warns us, Proverbs warns us about people who plot violence while claiming peace. And that's exactly what they're doing. They want you vulnerable while they organize because they want to take away your Second Amendment rights. Their own platform, their own documents. It's almost, it's ironic and it's almost comical that their own documents prove exactly what the founders gave us the Second Amendment for: a check on tyranny. And everything that the DSA is about imposing tyranny. They wrote a piece in on their website back in 2018 called "The Second Amendment is a Threat to Us All." That's the title of the piece. And they go into all this stuff about violence reduction and how we're at fault because we don't do anything about gun violence and stuff like that. But it's all about power for them. It's not about stopping gun violence. It never has been, it never will be. It's all about disarming you. It's all about disarming the people who would oppose them. Because tyranny is not effective if the people have a means to resist it. In this ridiculous piece, where they talk about the Second Amendment is a threat to us all, they propose a 28th Amendment. And it's in small print. I'm not going to show it to you. I'm just going to read it to you. Their proposal for the 28th Amendment, Section 1. The second article of amendment to the Constitution of the United States is hereby replaced. The manufacturing, transportation, or importation in or into any state, territory, or possession of the United States for delivery or use therein of pump action, semi-automatic or automatic firearms is hereby prohibited. This article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by conventions of the several states as provided in the Constitution within 10 years from the date of the submission hereof, blah, 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 blah. In other words, you can have a gun. This is them still. In other words, you can have a gun provided it is manually loaded. That means one bullet loaded in the gun by hand at a time. They don't care about actual violence because, again, this is nothing. This is nothing more than them trying to stop you from, because the criminal element responsible for all the gun violence couldn't care less about the Second Amendment, couldn't care less about any laws that restrict the citizens' rights. They're criminals. They don't care. And guns get smuggled into the country all the time. And do you really think that this is going to stop that? Of course not. This is the militant arm of the DSA mobilizing to try and stop, mobilizing to basically overthrow the country and reshape it in their image. Oh, well, I actually forgot that President Trump is speaking now, so I'm sure that um, a lot of people are watching that instead. Understandable. But if you're still here, thank you very much. Um, and if you're not, you can always catch it on demand later. I hope that you do. Um, these, these people hate you, hate the Constitution, hate this country, and want to reshape it in their image. They'll keep their community defense, their Red Rabbit Security Commission. They'll keep the tools for themselves. They'll keep the semi-automatics. They'll keep the pump shotguns. They'll keep the fully automatic rifles because that'll be different. They'll keep all that for themselves while you get your granddad's relics, single shot, manually loaded antiques. But that won't, you'll still be able to defend yourself or something. The right to defend yourself isn't just constitutional. I mean, it's a God-given right. It's a God-given responsibility for men to defend yourselves, to defend your family, your community, and so on. And this is not given by government, nor can it be taken away by government. It is something that we have been endowed with by our Creator. In the Bible, in Nehemiah chapter 4, he tells his people to build with one hand and hold a sword in the other. We have to be vigilant. We have to be on guard and guard against this stuff. And too many of us, too many Christians, too many conservatives, too many Republicans have been asleep at the switch. It should have never gotten this far. And so now, now we have to we have to fight this scourge of socialism and communism. And do we really have to again talk about the number of people who have been killed by these socialist and communist regimes? There was a graphic. Yeah, here we go. Let's go ahead and take a look at this, because this is going to tie into something else we're going to talk about later on as well. But this is a graphic that shows fascism, communism, socialism, Islamism, and the number of people dead as a result of these ideologies. According to this, fascism with the Nazi symbol, 21 million, communism, 49 million, socialism, 62 million. I'm pretty sure that these numbers are low, honestly. But again, I'm not stating this as factual. This is just a graphic that shows what happens. Islamism, 270 plus million deaths. And guess what? All of these ideologies today are aligning themselves with Islamism in this red-green alliance. And so when you think about socialism and communism and how they want everyone to be equal, the thing is, you will be equally dead at their hands if you don't comply. That's why they have been so bent on trying to take away your right to keep and bear arms. And the DSA is just the latest push of this, because the Democrats have long been trying to take away your right to keep and bear arms. That's just what they do, because they have to be in control. And as I always say, they cannot control people who have a means to defend themselves. Speaker Johnson actually before we even get to him, I mentioned before how Caitlin Collins says that this is not socialism or communism, and how they have stated that their goal is communism. In their own words, they say that this is communism. I showed you the graphic. Here it is in writing. Marxist Unity Group works towards adopting a minimum maximum program for DSA. We both view the minimum and maximum program is essential. The minimum program refers to the party's comprehensive platform, the policies that it will immediately implement upon taking power to establish working class political rule and place society on the path of a socialist transition out of capitalism. The maximum program refers to the results of this process, a world free of the market, borders, classes, and all other oppressive structures that exist under capitalism. In a word, communism. This is them. This is their agenda. When they tell you who they are, believe them. And I don't understand why so many people are reluctant to take this on and digest it and understand it. I don't get it. They're explicitly telling us every chance they get. And as I said, Mike Johnson, who is not my favorite, well, I don't really have a favorite politician, honestly, but Mike Johnson, who is, in my estimation, a fairly weak Speaker of the House, he actually got one right this time. He was asked about the DSA, and this is what he had to say. So let's check this out.
Their platform, I hope you're all covering. Oh, I hope you're writing in depth about their platform. I read it out at an event a few weeks ago, and they made an ad mocking me reading their platform. Now they didn't put the clips with the worst parts of it. Representative Jimenez just told you, Carlos told you that, well, of course they want to pack the Supreme Court, and they want a unicameral legislature. They want the House to run everything, abolish the Senate, because they believe the House would be run by Marxists, communists. They'll be able to run the table on everything. They want to remove the president. What they also want to do is abolish all borders. They don't want any borders. They want mass amnesty granted to anyone who can come onto our shores without exception, even for terrorists and hardened dangerous criminals. Okay? They don't want prisons. It's in their platform. They want to remove the carceral state, they said. No prisons. They don't want to fund the police. This is not a game. Everybody needs to understand. These crazy little mini Mamdanis who are popping up all around the country, they are a danger to you and your family. This is not a game. If they promise you free stuff, there is far more beneath those promises that even some of these people do not understand themselves. And so we are here as the Republican Party to stand.
Well, he lost me at "we are here" as the Republican Party, because the Republican Party has been ineffectual at best. I mean, I'll be honest, they can't pass the SAVE Act, but they're voting on daylight savings time, which, I mean, I agree, we don't need to be turning clocks back, but that is way down on the priority list as far as I'm concerned. They should have been focusing that energy on the SAVE Act, but that's a whole other story. These people and their ideology and their everything they do is diametrically opposed to what this country was founded on. And they are the barbarians inside the gate at this point. They were knocking politely. They were asking to be let in. But now they're in. And they are funded, they are organized, and they are deeply embedded in the Democrat Party. They don't believe in God-given rights. They believe that the state is God. They won't explicitly say that or admit it, but if you read their platform, if you read all of their documents, and then you read who they're inspired by, it's all got religious undertones to it. They have this state as God fantasy. They don't think you're capable of managing your own life. They want to do it for you. Ronald Reagan, and I said this before, and it's coming up more and more lately, freedom is only one generation away from extinction. And this generation is volunteering. And it's sad to watch, and we can't let it happen. So how do we stop it? Make sure that we pay attention, first of all. Too many people on the right, too many people who call themselves conservatives, Christians, Republicans, whatever the case may be, too many of us pay attention like the last couple of weeks before an election. And that's not going to cut it. Too many of us stay home when it's time to actually vote. That's not going to cut it. Those Democrat socialists in New York that won their elections, they won those elections with 7% of the vote. Less than 10% of eligible voters in New York City voted. And of those eligible voters that voted, they won with 7%. So all the people who are complaining who didn't vote for him, well, yeah, you did. Your not voting was a vote. Hate to break it to you, but you need to hear it. So pay attention. When it comes to this DSA and the Red Rabbit Security Commission, train yourselves, arm yourselves lawfully, and get educated on what they're actually doing. Because we have to defend what God has entrusted us with. We have to be good stewards of what God entrusted us with. Because this republic under God will only last if we are vigilant and unashamed to stand up for it. We gotta reject this agenda and recommit to the principles that made this country great. And if you can't train, if you can't do any of that, pray. Pray for those of us who can, so that we stand up to this madness. All right. Let's get a word in from our sponsor. And our sponsor for today's show is the SHR Media Shop. So if you like what we're doing here and you want to support what we're trying to build here at SHR, then head over to the SHR Shop, where you can grab the gear from the merch from all your favorite shows, the official SHR mug. We still have a few limited edition 250 Reasons to Read Source Documents tees. So be sure to grab one of those if you haven't already and celebrate the 250th anniversary of this great country. Support the network, represent the mission, and grab yours today at the SHR Shop. All right. I said earlier that I mentioned the Red Green Alliance, and I mentioned how these socialists and communists have aligned themselves with Islamists, jihadists. And that's not just some throwaway line. That's not just some hyperbole. That's a fact. There was a Pew Research poll that study that came out that says that 44% of Muslims, American Muslims, favor Hamas and civilizational jihad. Imagine if nearly half of any other American faith group polled with favorable views towards any militant organization, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, whatever the case, pick one. People's heads would absolutely explode. So today we're going to get into this a little bit more and talk about this myth of the moderate Muslim, because it's a fairy tale. And I've talked about this before. I couldn't find it because I was going to play it again, but I played a video of an imam up in front of his mosque congregants, asking them if they believed in jihad and asking them if they believed in all the things that we find abhorrent when it comes to Islam. And they all raised their hands. And I have a few other ones because, as I've said before, they do not hesitate to tell us what they're all about. And you don't have to look very hard to find any of it. So we have this Pew data that tells us that all these Muslims in America, 44% of them, favor Hezbollah. If you think that it's only 44%, you're fooling yourself. You're fooling yourself. Because part of the doctrine of Islam is to lie to advance it. So I guarantee you that the most ardent and faithful practitioners of Islam, if they had been polled in this study, would have lied and said, no, they don't. But of course, I guarantee you that number, that 44%, I guarantee you that it's probably closer to 84%. and maybe even higher than that. But let's just take the 44% number. That's 2 million by population estimates right now. 2 million. As opposed to the 4% of white evangelicals and 8% of Catholics, 2% of Jews. Overall, outside of the Muslim population, it's 10%. That's 10% too high, obviously. But you know those are all leftists as well. When they tell you who they are, I'm not going to play this whole thing, but check this out. This is a Muslim imam telling us exactly what they think.
The loyalty and disavowal, and obligation of implementing the Sharia, and the obligation of jihad, these are still fully valid today, and there's no reason to say that they're not. Basically, the US and this entire security apparatus has made a huge mistake in classifying and understanding the Muslim world. And the idea was that we can sort of engineer into existence through raw power, by projecting power and hegemony, we can create a dichotomy whereby every Muslim is faced with one of two versions. Either they become liberal, peace-loving, secular, democratic Muslims, or they can become jihadi, radical, terrorist fundamentalists.
And of course, there really is no distinction. I've said this many times. And he's about to make that same point.
Right? And so if you believe in jihad, well, you're in this category, right? If you believe in the caliphate, you're in this category. If you're in this, whatever, and the problem is that counter-terror laws, what they do is they basically annul human rights for anyone who's classified as a terrorist or potential terrorist, which is a huge problem. Now they're stuck between two options, because the average normal, let's say Sunni Muslim, is someone who believes in the caliphate, who believes in Sharia, who prays his prayer 5 times a day. And
these are mainstream normative.
These are normal
Sunni
conservative
positions.
Sunni Muslims.
They're not
and it's not
extreme
something. Yes, and you can't erase. The West has 2 options. Either they can accept that reality and say that Muslims basically this is what they believe, this is who they are, and you have to now accept a potential future where a caliphate in Islamic law is a part of the international system, right? And might as well come to terms with that. The point being that you have to accept the reality that this is the direction the Muslim world is moving.
We all know this. If you're paying attention, you know this. There is no, I've made this point before, there is no such thing as a moderate Muslim. There may be cultural Muslims who don't practice, but Muslims who practice, this is what they believe. And they're telling us this. There was a piece in the American Thinker. Hamas, I think I said Hezbollah earlier, same difference. They have been designated terrorists. They were complete butchers on October 7th. Their stated goal in their charter, in their founding documents, says that Israel must cease to exist. Yet, almost half of American Muslims view them favorably. I mean, why is it Islamophobic, quote unquote, to not want to deal with that in this country? And this goes even deeper than that, because this is not just a fringe outlier where there's just a a tiny sliver of support elsewhere. Over in the UK, this support is mirrored. And among the young people over there, the support is even greater. This is the Islamic doctrinal pull that is showing up in our American polling. They think that they think that Hamas and Hezbollah, they're just misunderstood freedom fighters or something. This is this was a panel discussing this Pew Research. Let's listen to what this guy has to say.
Half the Muslim American population in the United States actively supports a movement to kill my people. They are my enemy. And if they made up 10% of the Muslim population, American population in the United States, I would say, look, there are some bad people among American Jews too. And I'm not, I don't want you to hold me responsible for them. And I won't hold you responsible for your bad actors. But if half of you are for it, I'm not going to be constrained with the idea that I can't openly say that person should not be in the House or in the Senate because they are Muslim.
This is another point that I've made. When you look at people like Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and this guy, Abdul Sayed, who's about to be elected into the Senate, and all the rest of them, there are dozens at this point, not to mention in the municipal jurisdictions. This can't happen. This can't happen. The Constitution was not meant to be a suicide pact. And I've made this point before as well. The founders, had they known that the group of people that was responsible for them forming a navy, had they known that so many of us would just accept them in our government because freedom of religion, because reasons, they would have put something in there to stop it. They knew who the Muslims were. And the Muslims told them then, our Quran tells us we are obligated to do this. They believed them and set about building a navy to combat them. And now we're just laying back and letting them in.
I mean, that's the bridge here. The bridge here is they hate Jews. They want to kill Jews. They support a movement that is actively sought to murder thousands of Jews. And if that's something that they support, what on earth, what comfort can we take in the idea that they will be constrained by American law not to do it here? They're going to do whatever it is that they're going to do to defend or advance the interests of Hamas and these groups.
And Ilhan Omar said it. She said that she was in the House of Representatives to fight for Somalis, not to represent the people who elected her, not to represent Americans, but Somalis.
And that means we can't pretend we're not allowed to talk about who they are and what they want. And we're not, we haven't, I mean, people do, but there is still this kind of like barrier which is, of course, I'm not attacking all Muslims. Well, okay, fine. I'm not attacking. I will, however, be happy to attack 44% of Muslim Americans.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. This is not, they have no affinity for, they have no respect for the Constitution, liberty. They don't respect women. They don't have any respect for women's rights. Women are second-class citizens. But we have allowed these people to import these voters and elect these people into public office. They don't care about any of the atrocities committed by Hamas or Hezbollah. They don't care about the October 7th victims. This is pretty much an existential threat to our way of life. And I was going to get into a conference that took place in Vienna that was given by a retired colonel. Retired major in the Army. But I think I'll save that for another time, because that could be a whole show in and of itself. So I'll just say that diversity is not our strength. Diversity will kill us if we're not careful. Because the people who think that diversity is our strength, that's all fine and good until the strength starts demanding Sharia law and starts saying that jihadists are just freedom fighters or resistance heroes. And we can't have that. We cannot have that. The moderate Muslim myth is collapsing under the weight of its own data. Jihad is not a bug. For at least 44%, if you on the low end, for at least 44% of Muslims in this country, and even more around the world, jihad is not the bug, it's the feature. It is the reason for their existence. The reason for their existence to advance Islam, to dominate, to subjugate everyone who doesn't convert. And in case you don't believe me,
Muslim believes in jihad. Jihad is part of Islam, just salah is part of Islam. Today, the kuffar, they want us to delete this aspect of.
And the kuffar are the infidels. That's you and me.
Our deen. And you can understand just in the simple fact of what is the definition of jihad. If you understand, who do you do jihad against? You don't do jihad against Muslims. Jihad is against the kuffar. So is there any kind of come as a surprise why they don't want Muslims to believe in jihad? Because they don't want us to do jihad against them.
When they tell you who they are, believe them. All right. We're actually going to stick with this Muslim theme here for a second, because we have to talk about Zohran Mamdani. Mike Johnson talked about the mini Mamdanis, which was that was a pretty good line. I got to give it to him. But people talk about Mamdani and how he's delivering for New York and all the promises that he made, he's kept. He balanced the budget and all this other stuff. Well, that's not entirely true. He said he was going to bring down rent, and that is a complete, just a complete lie. He has perhaps single-handedly set New York on a trajectory that is going to destroy that city. He promised to freeze rent and crush the cost of living, but he's done the exact opposite. Under Mamdani, the median rent in Manhattan is up 8% to $5,295 a month. Brooklyn is up 8% to $4,350 a month. The Bronx is up 4.8% to $3,099 a month. And Queens is up 4.3% to $3,427 a month. Record highs. That's insane. That is every one of those, even the lowest one, is more than we were paying for a mortgage on a 2,300 square foot house on 10 acres of land in Texas. That's insane for a rat motel. Yeah, I know some of these places in these areas are somewhat nice, but if they're rent controlled, they won't be that nice for very long. This is what affordable housing looks like under Mayor Mamdani. And because of his tax the rich plan, his pied-à-terre tax, the people who can most afford to live in New York are the people who can most afford to leave. And they're leaving. It was millionaires have left costing $11 billion in lost tax revenue. And 40% of the rentals in New York now are from foreign-born tenants. This is what Mamdani wants. But it's not all rainbows and sunshine in New York City. And Kathy Hochul's trying to walk a fine line between this DSA madness and actually trying, although she's completely incompetent herself, but trying to somehow maintain some semblance of sanity so that she can get reelected. But she's about to get hammered here. Check this out.
Can we talk about the latest report from the Citizens Budget Commission? And I know you're very aware of this and sensitive to big businesses leaving New York City. Their latest report basically said wealthy individuals are moving out, families are moving out, and single filers are coming in. People who really can't afford New York City are coming here. You had to bail out New York City $8 billion.
And that's another thing. I had an exchange with somebody a while back when they talked about how, on X, when they talked about how Mamdani balanced the budget. He balanced the budget, A, by getting an $8 billion bailout from Albany, and B, he raided the pension fund to balance that budget. Now they're talking, well, I think she goes on to mention what it's going to be like next year. Check this out.
Budget. They're saying they see a $10 billion budget deficit. What do you think? How do we stop this?
Well, first of all, the data that came out is from 2022.
Do you think it's any better? I mean,
No,
we
I'm
had
just
an
saying-
$8 billion budget deficit this year.
Let me explain.
Yeah.
Back then, big driver of people leaving, and you could draw a through line from when the Donald Trump administration and Congress got rid of the state and local tax deduction. All of a sudden, everybody in New York paid higher taxes because we used to, since Abraham Lincoln was president, they started the tax code, you never were double taxed. They changed that. So states like New York, you lost that deduction. So it got more expensive to be here just with the signing of that law. 2017, 2019, those were the years when people started the out-migration of businesses and individuals. And then what happens in 2020? Gets slammed with the pandemic. So people who maybe had a vacation home or a temporary home in Palm Beach said, I'm moving my whole family here. I mean, the city's falling apart here. Everybody.
And you're imposing all kinds of ridiculous restrictions and curfews and issuing papers so that you can only go certain places when you have papers to show that you've been jabbed with that poison that has turned out to be exactly that, poison. But I digress.
It's getting sick. I'm not staying there. So there's an interesting trend, right, that drove that factor.
You don't think that's a problem now?
But here I am today. I am doing what I can to stop that.
Yeah. This is part and parcel of the leftist playbook. And now that the people who they most need to stay and pay for their nonsense are kicking rocks. They're saying, see ya. And it's only going to get worse. She said there could be a $10 billion budget deficit next year. It's probably going to be more than that. And so I wanted to just put that out there because his promise to give everybody free stuff and freeze rent is going to have the exact opposite effect. It already has, with record high rent and all the available housing that's there, the empty apartments and stuff like that. They're in such disrepair they can't be rented, and the landlords can't afford to fix them, and then they can't afford to rent them out at the rent control prices that the city's mandating. But that's not all that Mamdani did, because this guy, and I saw somebody, I call these left-wing Islamic officials Islamo-communists. But somebody on the Rare Foundation's website shortened it to Islamunist, and I actually like that. So he was interviewed and made one of the most ridiculous, monstrous statements I think I've heard one of these people say, especially elected officials. I mean, I've heard people like Mehdi Hassan and others make equally monstrous comments, but coming from an elected official like this, it's especially egregious. He came in with this idea of defunding the police and closing Rikers Island and the warmth of collectivism. We'll see how warm it is this winter, but he made a statement in an interview, and I'm going to play it here if I can find it, because you got to hear this and you got to see this. And just watch.
And what I think is important to know is a lot of the increase in rape also comes from an expanded definition of what counts as rape, as well as survivors coming forward for acts that took place years prior. And what I think is important to know.
This guy, he couldn't care less about women. He's a jihadist. He doesn't view women with any sort of respect. He doesn't think they're worthy of protection. And this comment proves it. And New York CompStat shows a 6.6% increase in rape after the Rape is Rape Act was passed. I don't think that is, I think that's actually low. I think that these political animals in uniforms are basically cooking the books to try and make themselves look better. Mamdani and his Democrat cohorts, they went from believe all women to it depends on what the definition is. I mean, how do you even respond to that? How do you respond to that? Some people say it's just willful blindness, but we know how Muslims feel about women, and this, to me, falls in line with what some call rape jihad, and we see this in the UK with the grooming gangs and all the victims that are basically just ignored because to bring charges against the perpetrators would be seen as, I don't know, discriminatory or something, because it's their culture or some such nonsense. And so I think we're seeing some of that here in the United States and in New York with the surging demographics of Muslims. And I hope that it's not the case, but there are reports that the FBI has been masking Middle Eastern offenders by labeling them as white. And we've seen that with Hispanic legal aliens accused of crimes when they're pinched for whatever crime they commit. You see on their booking sheet that they'll be labeled as white, even though they're very clearly Hispanic or clearly not white. And I mean, this fits a pattern of his past dismissals of certain atrocities. And so this is just another in his grotesque deflections. They don't care about safety. They don't care about assimilation. It's all about power. And for Islamists like him, they're trying to amass all the power they can to implement Sharia, to implement their caliphate. And if they can degrade and demoralize the population, that's what they're going to do. And that's what he's doing. And his defenders will try and say that it's a nuanced conversation. It's a nuanced take. No, it's a monstrous minimization. And the survivors of these attacks, they don't need to hear the mayor talking about legal technicalities while the predators who attack them are roaming the streets. Because that's what's happening in New York. Twinkies Bragg, DA Bragg, he downgrades felonies on a regular basis. We've talked about it before. Mamdani just blocked the addition of 580 new cops on the street. And so resources are spread very thin between all the cops who retired, other cops who decided to leave and go to different jurisdictions. And so resources are thin, and the brass, they see themselves as being forced to shuffle priorities. So I know some were doing that anyway, like I mentioned with the CompStat numbers. I know a lot of people never trusted CompStat numbers, and I tend to agree. But it's classic socialist, communist, Islamist book cooking. And the women and girls, the victims of these crimes, pay the price. Joshua W08 8083 says it's not nuance, it's straight up invasion. You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. This as Christians, especially Christian men, our responsibility is to protect the vulnerable, call out injustice, call out the wolves in sheep's clothing, and because that's what Jesus did, and we're called to be like him. And yes, every single one of us falls short of that. But that's what we aspire to. This type of leadership from guys like Mamdani, it just makes a mockery of that. And of course, he's an Islamist, so that's what he's going to do anyway. But it makes a mockery of that by sacrificing our daughters and wives at the altar of this monstrous ideology. Rape is up, rent is up, Churches are being burned. Diseases are spreading. Chip Roy said it. If you elect the third world, you get the third world. New York is fast becoming a third world country, a third world city. And Mamdani presiding over it, this is exactly what he wants. Exactly what he wants. Exactly what they all want. Mamdani has been portrayed as the kingmaker of all these DSA, newly elected DSA candidates. If this is the model, that spells an absolute disaster for any jurisdiction, for any state that elects enough of these DSA commies. Because if you elect enough of them, they will defund the police. They will abolish prisons. And if you elect enough more of them, they will open the borders. And we didn't even need the DSA to have bribe and toss open the border like that. But you get enough of these individuals in office, the cultural erasure, everything that we talk about in terms of what will happen with these people will come to pass. If we're not prayed up, and if we're not engaged enough, and if we don't get out and vote, it's exactly what's going to happen. And where are all I don't even know why I'm asking this question, but where are all the believe all women feminists? Whenever something like this is in the news, whenever somebody says something like this, if it's somebody from the left, it's complete silence. Crickets. But if somebody on the right had said something like this, I would be condemning that too, just to make sure we get that out there. But you would also have those feminist harpies out here chirping, saying the same thing. But because he's got the right politics, no big deal. All right, let's go ahead and get you out of here with something not quite as heavy. It's just as ridiculous, but I've talked about this before, but Candace Owens she's just on a whole other level of ridiculous right now. And I used to think, up until recently, I think up until this last episode, I used to think that she was, and I still think that she's jealous of Erica Kirk. She wanted to be Charlie Kirk's wife. But aside from that, I used to think that all of this stuff stemmed from that jealousy and postpartum psychosis, because she's had a bunch of kids in a row. I think she's got another one on the way, and I think the other three are all under 3, maybe 4. And so I was generously attributing all of this to that. No more. Because in this latest chapter of Everything Is About Me, the Candace Owens story, she took it to a whole other level. She took it to a whole other level. She is now saying that she was the one who was supposed to be assassinated, not her. She was supposed to be the victim. The real plot was against her. Right after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, she didn't waste any time going into all of the conspiracy theories. Netanyahu was involved. TPUSA betrayed Charlie Kirk. But now she's saying that Charlie Kirk's assassination wasn't even about him, it was about her. Let's just listen to this real quick. Because, I mean, how narcissistic does one have to be to, and Charlie Kirk was supposed to be her best friend. How narcissistic do you have to be to say that it was supposed to be me? It wasn't even, anyway, just listen to this.
I know what my gut has told me about the situation from the moment that it took place. I know what beyond my gut and beyond my dreams, the statement from Andrew Colbert, it was supposed to be you. Was it? Was it? Is it fair to ask if it's plausible that when Charlie was taken to the Hamptons, the phone call no one wants to address from Bibi Netanyahu, is it fair to ask the question if it was literally supposed to be me who was supposed to be back on tour with Charlie?
No. You were not supposed to be back on tour with Charlie. But anyway.
Did he say no to killing Candace Owens?
So she's saying that it was supposed to be her and Charlie Kirk wouldn't sign off on it. And so they killed him instead.
And then did he become a liability because he said no? What did Charlie turn down from Bibi Netanyahu while Erica was there? Again, the people that were present don't even want to acknowledge the phone call. I only got an acknowledgement that it happened from Erica in person, who then said, oh, he was just following up on a letter that Charlie wrote in May. Really? Bill Ackman's house, you put Bibi Netanyahu on the phone? And he's just like, hey, I got your letter. I want to talk about that letter from months ago. This feels like a good time. I don't buy it, guys. I think this is darker than we could ever imagine. I think.
Yeah, it's darker than I ever could have imagined. But she really is putting this out there. And you know this is just because all the other stuff that she's put out there has just completely fallen apart after the hearing where all the evidence came out. She doesn't care about facts. All she cares about at this point is making money. Milk Bar TV put out a compilation of all the times since Charlie Kirk was assassinated that she's been pushing her merch. After, of course, she said that she hasn't been able to think about money or anything like that. Now, all of a sudden, she's not about the money, but I think it goes on for minutes where she's just hawking her merch. She's the real target. And here's something else I just want to mention real quick. Since she's taken this turn into crazy town, people have come out and said that they had their doubts about her, and some people who helped put her over, have come out and said that they something wasn't right, and other people too who met her coming up, but didn't really have a hand in promoting her, also said these things. This is why you tell the truth. This is why, even if it seems harsh, this is why you tell the truth in love, because they didn't have to platform her after she imploded at TPUSA, and she did. She made some comments that people didn't like, and they forced her out. And so Daily Wire and I think she started Blexit, but anyway, they didn't have to platform her. Somebody like maybe Alex Jones would have, but they didn't have to. If they had just stuck with their convictions and told the truth to themselves as well as other people who may have wanted to bring her on board so they could make money, maybe this could have been avoided. I mean, Tyler Robertson still would have taken that shot, but I'm saying all of this strife and everything that she's done to TPUSA and to the Kirk family, all of this could have been avoided because nobody would have paid attention to her, because she wouldn't have had the reach that she has. Maybe that's wishful thinking on my part, I don't know, but this is why, to me, you just tell the truth. But anyway, that was an aside. This whole episode also proves that there is people get caught up in this your truth, my truth nonsense. The facts, safety, all of that is secondary to me telling my truth. And she has been the absolute poster child for that in the months since Charlie Kirk was killed. Oh, she's just asking questions. Is it okay to ask this? I'm doing an investigation and I'm gonna have the facts for you. Just tune in tomorrow and buy my mug. I hope all the people, now I've interacted with a lot of people who are in the candy cult. There is absolutely nothing. There is nothing you can say to them that would persuade them otherwise. As far as they're concerned, she is the paragon of virtue. She is the paragon of truth. Everything that she said, despite the fact that so many of it has conflicted. I mean, let's take a look at some of the lies she's told. She said that Erica Kirk's alibis and timelines and travel records don't add up. She said that Erica Kirk lied about her personal history. She said that Charlie Kirk had foreknowledge of his death and predicted it to others, and was a time traveler with special insight. She said that Erica Kirk was complicit in or directly benefited from the cover-up surrounding Charlie Kirk's assassination. She said that Erica Kirk manipulated the public narrative about their marriage and widowhood to gain sympathy and power and money at TPUSA. I mean, This woman is an absolute lunatic. And my goodness. Pray for her. She needs all the prayer she can get. And again, speak the truth in love, not this chaotic self-absorption that dishonors the memory of what she claimed is her best friend. And if you're in the candy cult, I pray that you come out of it, because it's rotting your brain. It's rotting your brain. Anyway, I was going to talk about Sonny Hostin trashing Lindsey Graham's sister taking the Senate seat. We might get into that on the weekend debrief coming up. Maybe. But I guarantee you we will talk about, and I'm sure BZ is going to talk about it tonight, President Trump's speech. I haven't had a chance, obviously I've been here talking to you, so I haven't had a chance to see what it was all about, but we will talk about it, and I'm sure I'll tweet about it later on tonight. But anyway, that is going to do it for us here tonight. I am Big E, and you have been watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network. You can catch our good friend Sackhead Sean with the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Wednesday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. I'm not sure when he'll be back, but I'm sure he will pretty soon. Same with Jersey Joe, the Reaver of Common Sense, every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. BZ, who will be on in a little more than a half an hour, every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. So the saloon is open this evening, so be sure to check him out. And then we have Lyle Armstrong with Beer and Bullstein every Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. I'm not sure if he is going to be back. I know he was dealing with some a medical thing, and so I'm not sure if he's going to be back this weekend, but hopefully it will be next weekend, if not tomorrow. But anyway, be sure to like and subscribe and check out all of those guys' great shows, and pray for us that we push through a major breakthrough in this election cycle and reach as many people as we possibly can. But that is going to do it for us here tonight. We're not just here to talk into the ether. We're here to equip Christian men and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and carry the banner of faith, freedom, and hope into the next generation. If anything that we said here tonight resonated with you, please share the show and bring another guy into this fight with us. And if you want to wear what you stand for, head over to missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors, and check out all the great designs we have over there that talk about bold faith, true grit, and unapologetic patriotism. And while you're there, again, check out the SHR shop and check out the merch for all the guys' shows there. And remember, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.